And what's up, Pokemon fans, sports fans, video game fans? You could be a fan of anything today, but there is one fact that is present here amongst all of those things is that there will always be people who are just never really happy with an outcome related to them. And for today's video, we're going to be talking about a very recent announcement from the Pokemon Company. I'm sure pretty much anyone who's a Pokemon fan, you're a Pokemon fan, right? You're here to talk about Pokemon Winds and Waves. It is the newest game, Generation 10, not coming out till 2027. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I've noticed a huge controversy online involving this game, and I think it has to be one of the dumbest ones I've actually ever seen or heard. Pokemon Winds and Waves was confirmed to be a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive at the end of the presentation, and this seems to have riled up a huge portion of the fan base. I don't really know if I would call these people fans, however, and I'm going to get into that as well. And I just think it is an incredibly ridiculous piece of drama. It's a crazy situation, as Moist Critical or Charlie would say. The Pokemon Winds and Waves situation is crazy. But yeah, hey, I'm Terrible Shoes. Hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. And let's just talk about today's controversy or today's piece of information. So, like I said, Pokemon Day passed over. I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this video. It's either going to be like a day or so ago or a couple days. That part will sort itself out. But the big thing here is we have Gen 10. It is here. It is confirmed. And I have to be real. I think it looks great. I actually think that they made a huge graphical improvement with this game. And compared to how Scarlet and Violet ran on the Switch 1, it is honestly a night and day difference. Like, you literally, it's mind-numbing how much better this game looks, even just from the trailer alone. So, Pokemon Winds and Waves will be the Gen 10 game that is coming out in 2027 for the Nintendo Switch 2. And that part alone seems to have really, really upset a lot of people. So, let's get into it. Let's talk about this a little bit. So, up until this point, Nintendo has been very, very supportive of the Nintendo Switch 1. In fact, even now, as I'm uploading this video, there are still first-party games coming out for the Switch 1, such as Tomodachi Life coming out about a month or so from now. And I just don't understand why people thought that a game of this caliber would be reduced to the Switch 1's hardware. So, Winds and Waves is a Switch 2 exclusive. We've said this a couple times already. And I've seen on Twitter specifically, for the most part, that most people are incredibly upset about this. And I mean very, very upset. I have seen a lot of F Nintendo, F Pokemon, etc. posts. And I think that it's really, really crazy to have this take, because it just doesn't line up with the general, opinion about the Nintendo Switch or the Pokemon franchise that you constantly see on these websites. We're constantly told that the Pokemon franchise is an incredibly low-quality franchise, that the video games look terrible, they play terrible, and there's absolutely nothing innovative or really new or good to look forward to when Legend of The Legend of Zelda, because 40th anniversary for that too, by the way, just passed over. So when Legend ZA came out, a lot of people complained that this game looked like ass because of the limitations the Switch 1 had unfortunately had put on the game graphically. ZA at one point had the fully molded buildings and windows and everything before they were replaced with a flat texture so it would run smoother on the Switch 1. Most people don't want to accept that as the truth, but it is. The Switch 1 held this game back graphically. We could have had a far more beautiful game if it was Switch 2 exclusive, but because they wanted to maximize some of those holiday sales, they kept it as a dual platform experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. I personally thought ZA was a really good game. Mega Dimensions was a little iffy. In my opinion, I felt it was a little too grindy, but that's not the point. The point is, this game was graphically held back by the Nintendo Switch 1, and no, I don't care how many screenshots of Xenoblade you put in my face or other games. Unfortunately, having to adapt this game to multiple platforms is what caused it to look the way it did. I understand people are not happy with the quality Game Freak has produced over the last couple of years, and that is a completely valid opinion. However, you have to really look at the facts here, and it was the Switch 1. Going forward from that, we're going to talk about Winds and Waves now, and graphically, I think this game is pretty good looking so far. Pokemon seem to be much more highly detailed. The environments are pretty good looking, especially the underwater environments they showed in the trailer. And everything all in all looks to be good. The trailer ran at 30 frames per second. I noticed that has really concerned a lot of people, but I believe the game will run at a full 60 on full release. So, going back to talking about the Twitter controversy, though, a lot of people are disgusted that it is not coming out for the Switch 1, and I actually have a big theory on this. I think it is simply because they cannot pirate this game and run it that way. These people were never planning on buying the next Pokemon game, and once they realized that since Nintendo has put a pretty big firewall up and made it very hard to crack the Switch 2, they are incredibly upset and annoyed that they cannot play this game for free. That is my huge takeaway from this. These people were not Pokemon fans to begin with. They had no intention of buying this game to begin with, and they were hoping to get yet another free Pokemon game from the Switch's library. And when they came in and said, nope, not today, we're utilizing the power of the Switch 2 for this one, it instantly made a majority of Twitter very angry. And that is my honest personal take from this. I think it is ridiculous. In fact, Twitter also just really thrives off of negativity. There was a poster on there I remember seeing where they did a little experiment where they posted 2 screenshots of Winds and Waves, in which one it said, ugh, the grass textures look atrocious, and the other one said, wow, the water textures look amazing. And of course, the negative one was the one that got far more reach and far more interaction because people are always looking for something to complain about. We know for a fact that once this game launches, it is going to sell millions and millions of copies. These deranged people on Twitter who hate everything and are really just mad all the time wanted this game to be a failure. They wanted to be able to pirate it and talk about how bad it looked and how it played awful and I'm not actually going to be real here. I think another big reason these people wanted this game on the Switch 1 was so they could talk about how Nintendo refuses to let go of the Switch 1 and how there were no good Switch 2 games. They constantly talk about how the Switch 2 console does not have any good exclusives or third-party games, which I really disagree with. Resident Evil 9 recently came out on this, and it looks incredible regarding how powerful the Switch 2 is. The game graphically is really comparable to its other counterparts, and I think that is an amazing thing that the Switch 2 can even run something like that comparatively to a console like the PS5 Pro. I think that is an insane thing, and it just shows to show you how good the tech inside the Switch 2 is. Like I said, people want to be miserable to be miserable. They wanted this game to be a Switch 1 game so that they can call it a failure, they can pirate it, they could play it for free, and then talk about how it was an atrocious experience all in all, and talk about how all the emulator glitches that are caused by emulating it were dampening the experience for them, trying to pretend like those are in the final game, because we saw a lot of that with ZA as well. That's really my major take from this. Twitter weirdos are a loud minority, and it's very unfortunate how there are a lot of people that get their gaming opinions and news from Twitter. So this was bound to happen, but it just blows my mind that people have this mindset that, and I'm going to be real, I'm going to blame Sony for this one, because Sony did this with the PlayStation 4, and Microsoft isn't innocent either here. Sony did this with the PlayStation 4 for so long that people are accustomed to it releasing on multiple platforms. And I do believe that there are some people who genuinely wish they didn't have to spend the money to upgrade to a Switch 2. But as somebody who's been playing video games for a large portion of my life, this is how things were prior to these consoles. And let's be real, companies didn't give a shit back then. If you couldn't afford the new console, they would quite literally say, well, guess what? Upgrade or get left behind. And unfortunately, Nintendo took this approach this time. There's not much you can do. If you can't afford to Switch 2, I'm very sorry to say that. I'm not going to ever make fun of somebody's financial status, but there is plenty of time for you to stash money to the side or trade your Switch 1 in to afford a Switch 2. I'm sure there will be some type of deal that GameStop or any other gaming company will run to get you a Switch 2 relatively, cheaper when Winds and Waves drops next year, as crazy as that is to say. I'm very glad to see they're giving it an extra year of development time, which is another thing people are complaining about as well. You complain that Scarlet and Violet was a messy, glitchy piece of garbage, and then you're mad that they're taking their time with this one. Like I said, the loud majority is just crazy. They're incredibly low IQ, and most of them are not actual fans. They are just negative critics that are looking to be negative for the sake of being negative. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a great console. I personally think that. I own one, and I have plenty of games on it that I've been enjoying playing so far. So I think it is a great move on Nintendo's part to finally put something huge like this out to just, sell consoles like hotcakes. Not that it hasn't been doing that to begin with, but you get what I'm saying here. Anyway, I don't understand why people had this expectation that this game was going to be this multi-platform piece of garbage. That's really all I have to say here today. Let me know down in the comment section what you think below. I'm sure that there'll be some people who are really upset about this. But I hate to say it, this was bound to happen sooner or later, and it happened sooner, unfortunately for them. I'm Terrible Shoes. Hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. I make lots of Pokemon related videos, from commentary to card openings, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for checking me out today.